Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Daisy. As you guys saw by the title, I will be reading my subscribers' spooky stories. So grab your snacks, grab your cobija, and let's get straight into it. Hello, my name is Vivi, and this all happened when I was 13. I'm now 38. It was a beautiful Saturday, and I was out at the river with my grandma, my mama, papa, and a few other family members. My grandma had always warned me to stay away from the river, saying I'd get taken away by evil spirits. Of course, I didn't believe in that kind of stuff. At one point, my grandma went off with the rest of the family while I stayed behind at the river. That's when I noticed a girl. She had pitch black hair and a pale face. At first, I didn't think much of it until she came up to me. She asked me to play with her in the river, and I said yes. We played in the water for a little while. Then suddenly, she vanished. I decided to go back to the van, but it was gone. So I just walked home since my house wasn't too far. When I got there, I saw police cars outside. I immediately thought something had happened to my grandma. She was 89 at the time. I rushed inside, and my mama ran to me, crying and hugging me tightly. "What's wrong, Mama?" I asked. That's when she told me I had been missing for 9 days. I couldn't believe it. I knew I hadn't been gone for that long, but it was true. And ever since that day, I've never forgotten what happened. Hello Daisy, my name is Juanita. Greetings from Denver, Colorado. My story is short, but I hope it gives your subscribers goosebumps just like it does to me every time I tell it. At the time, my husband and I were living with his family in a small rancho in Aguascalientes, and we had just welcomed our newborn baby. One night, while getting ready for bed, my husband and I were laying down scrolling on our phones, and the baby was already asleep. We suddenly heard something big and heavy land on the roof. We got really scared. Well, mostly me. Right after that, the gallinas, gallos, and the dogs started going wild. But what really terrified me was when my baby suddenly burst into loud cries, as if something had hit him. The first thing my husband and I thought, es una bruja. My suegro and suegra heard the baby crying and ran upstairs to our bedroom, which was on the second floor. When we told them what had happened, my suegro grabbed a machete and ran outside, yelling bad words at whatever it was, because in our rancho, they say cursing scares brujas away. Keep in mind, my baby wasn't baptized at the time, and I always heard that it's dangerous when babies aren't baptized, especially with brujas around. I used to brush it off until that night. The next day, one of our neighbors said something that chilled me to my core. She told us, "Our granddaughter also started crying last night. I went outside to look around, and when I looked over at your house, I saw a bruja on your roof." Daisy, when I heard that, every hair on my body stood up, and it felt like my blood was boiling. I get scared so easily, but I still can't get enough of scary stories, movies, shows, anything creepy. There's been more spooky stuff that happened to me and my husband, but those are stories for another time. Hi Daisy, my name is Victoria. I have a lot of my own stories to share with you, but I wanted to start with 3 from people I know, mainly because they actually scare me more than what I've experienced myself. The first story happened to my stepdad. At the time, he was married to his ex-wife, and they had 2 young boys. One was 2 years old, and the other was just 4 months old. It was around 4 in the morning, and they were sleeping on a pull-out couch in their bedroom. The 2-year-old was spending the night with family, and the baby was asleep in his crib nearby. My stepdad was still in bed while his ex-wife was getting ready to leave for work. The house was quiet and still, nothing out of the ordinary. Then, all of a sudden, my stepdad felt someone lie down next to him on the bed. He assumed it was his wife coming back, so he called out, "Babe?" But instead of her voice, a deep, loud, manly voice replied right next to him, "I'm not your babe." He jumped out of bed, turned the lights on, and ripped the blankets off. But no one was there. The only person in the house was the baby, still sleeping peacefully in the crib. The next story is one that always stayed with me. It happened back when my mom, stepdad, my 3 brothers, and I were all living in a small old house, one that was already super creepy and honestly deserves its own list of stories. Both my mom and stepdad are Christian and are very spiritual when it comes to their faith. They pray and read the Bible daily. One night, while the whole house was asleep, my mom had a terrifying dream. In it, she was inside a house, up in the attic, and there was a spirit-like man shouting at her, trying to scare her. She tried to pray, but it felt like something was covering her mouth. She couldn't speak. Even though she was terrified, she kept trying to pray in her head. At that moment, my stepdad woke up. He could hear her mumbling in her sleep and sensed that something was wrong. He started praying over her, and eventually, she woke up. Later, when they talked about it, my mom told him that even after waking up, she still felt like something was covering her mouth as she tried to pray. That's when she felt a hand grab her foot. She had no idea what it was, but she always told me that the devil, or bad spirits, will try to mess with you when you're vulnerable. And honestly, that scares me even more now that I have a baby. Before I got pregnant, I used to love scary stories and horror movies, but once I found out I was expecting, I stayed far away from all of that. I've only recently started getting back into it, and even now, I usually only listen when my husband's on day shift at work. This next story is one my grandma shared with me, and it's always sent chills down my spine. She's 85 now, and I'm 28, but I first heard her tell it when I was 8 years old. I've heard her recount it several times since then, and the details have never changed, not even once. That's how I know it's something she truly experienced. When my grandma was 12 years old, she was sitting outside at night with her neighbor, a girl about the same age. They were just hanging out, sitting on the front steps. At some point, the neighbor's mom called her inside, leaving my grandma out there alone. There was a streetlight across the road and a small ditch nearby. As she sat there, she suddenly saw him. She gasped, and in that exact moment, he looked right at her. For a few seconds, they both just stared at each other, completely frozen. My grandma said it felt like forever, but it was only a few seconds. The strange part, he looked just as shocked to see her, almost like she wasn't supposed to see him at all. She said he didn't have horns or a tail, nothing cartoonishly demonic, but he looked like all flesh, like that scene in Hollow Man when the character is turning invisible. That's the closest thing she could compare it to. He looked human, but not quite. Masculine, but unnatural. She was terrified and ran inside as fast as she could. To this day, she says she'll never forget that night. Hi Daisy. I wanted to share a rather unusual and unsettling experience that recently happened between me and my uncle. He's an elderly man, and I try to look out for him as much as I can. giving him rides to medical appointments, taking him grocery shopping, and helping clean his home. In return, he helps care for my son when I have important obligations for nursing school. In early July, I had an incredibly vivid dream about him. I found myself standing on the front porch of his home. I somehow knew I was dreaming, yet when I reached for the front door, it felt solid to the touch. I quickly opened the door, walked through the living room, and entered the kitchen. There, I saw my uncle lying motionless on the floor. I ran to him, dropped to my knees, checked his pulse, and began frantically doing chest compressions. Then, just like that, I woke up. I didn't tell anyone about the dream. It felt too strange, too intense, and honestly, I didn't want anyone thinking I was mentally unstable. Well, fast forward to August, my uncle told me something that left me speechless. He said, "I died a few weeks ago." I was stunned. "What do you mean you died?" I asked. He explained that one day, while gathering items to make tea, he suddenly collapsed. He said his spirit left his body and he was out of here. When he regained consciousness, his limbs were cold, his hands and feet clammy, like he had been gone for hours. He hadn't told anyone at the time because he didn't want us to worry. Then I asked, "Were you wearing a green t-shirt and gray pants?" He nodded. That's when I told him about the dream. Every detail. The kitchen, the exact position he was lying in, the CPR, even the clothes. Suddenly, I started to wonder, was it really just a dream? Or did my spirit somehow leave my body to help revive him? How else could I have known those details? I'll let you decide. But for me, this experience has left me with more questions than answers. Hi, I'd like to remain anonymous. This is something that really happened, an experience only I and my coworker know about. For the sake of this story, I'll refer to my coworker as Ivy. We both work at a movie theater. One day, during one of our breaks, we decided to use a spirit box, just out of curiosity. We weren't expecting anything serious, but something came through. The energy shifted instantly. The responses were clear and direct, and then it said its name. Forest. After that, Ivy started acting differently, a little more distant, a little more tired. But the real issue started when I got near her. Every single time I stood close, her heart would start racing. She'd say it felt like she was running, even though she was just standing still. Her breathing would change. She looked overwhelmed. But the moment I stepped away, it all stopped. Instantly. It only ever happened around me. That's when I decided to pray over her. And the moment I started, I could feel it push back. A heavy weight settled on my chest. My stomach twisted. My neck started to ache. I felt lightheaded, like something was trying to drain me, wear me down. And again, as soon as I moved away, everything vanished. Whatever this thing is, it doesn't like me. And it knows I'm not afraid to challenge it. This all happened at work, but there is more. Even before this, Ivy and I would hear knocking, sounds and voices in the auditoriums when no one else was around. Things we tried to ignore, sounds that didn't belong. That place has always had a strange energy, but after Forrest came through, it only got heavier. This story is about my family's haunted house. I was too young to remember most of it, or maybe I blocked it out completely, but my siblings remember it clearly. We have many stories, but this is one that has always stayed with us. Back then, my family wasn't as religious as we are now, so a lot of what happened felt confusing and unexplained. It started with the crucifixes in our home suddenly turning upside down. My parents would get angry and blame my siblings, but none of them had done it, and no one ever admitted to it. One day, my sister was giving me a bath when the faucet at the sink suddenly turned on by itself, all the way. Water came pouring so forcefully that she had to use all her strength just to shut it off. Over time, it felt like whatever presence was in the house was following her. Once, she and my brother were in the same bed when something pushed him so hard he fell to the floor. He thought she did it, but she hadn't even moved. Strange things kept happening. Items would disappear and reappear in a pile under my sister's bed. That room always gave me a bad feeling. I couldn't even stand being in there as a kid. I was too scared to step inside. But the scariest moment came one day while my mom was brushing my hair. I was sitting quietly, talking about my favorite TV shows, when she began to say my name, Carla. I suddenly turned to her and said, "I'm not Carla." She laughed, thinking I was pretending. "Oh yeah? Then who are you?" she asked playfully. I looked straight at her and, in a cold, unfamiliar voice, said, "I am someone nobody loves, someone who everybody hates." The room went silent. My mom knew right away that I wasn't playing. Her heart dropped. She shouted, "I don't know who you are, but you're going to return Carla to me right now. In the name of God, bring her back." Then I turned back like nothing had happened and started talking again, completely normal. I had no memory of what I'd said, and I didn't learn about this until I was 17. I've always felt sensitive to spirits, like I can sense things others can't. That house definitely left a mark on all of us. Hi Daisy, this story isn't mine. It actually happened to my older brother. One day, when my brother was about 8 or 9 years old, he woke up much earlier than usual. It was so early that no one else in the house was awake yet. Instead of waking anyone up, he went to the living room to watch some TV. The living room had a huge window that faced the street, but the moment he stepped into the room, he said it felt wrong. Everything looked the same, but duller. And even though it was supposed to be morning, the sun wasn't out. He went to the kitchen to check the time. It was 5 a.m. Confused, he went back to the living room to look out the window just to confirm. When he moved the curtains, he saw something terrifying. A man and a dog, completely pitch black with glowing red eyes, just standing there, staring at him. Panicked, he quickly shut the curtains and tried to convince himself he imagined it. Wanting to be sure, he took another peek, and the man was closer. Now, really scared, he looked away for a second, then looked back. The man was even closer. Terrified, my brother shut his eyes, and when he opened them, the shadow man was standing right at the window, face to face with him. He slammed the curtains shut and ran to our parents' room to wake them, but no matter how hard he shook them, they wouldn't wake up. He ran to our siblings' room and tried to wake them too. In desperation, he even slapped our oldest brother, but still, nothing. Thinking noises might help, he started screaming, punching, and kicking the walls, and making a mess throughout the living room and kitchen, but still, no one woke up. Feeling completely helpless, he He grabbed a rosary and ran to his bed, hiding under the covers and convincing himself it had to be just a nightmare. Eventually, he cried himself to sleep. Suddenly, he was woken up by our mom, furious about the mess in the house. Our siblings all denied doing it, and that's when my brother realized it had all really happened. The colors in the house were no longer dull. Our oldest brother had red marks on his face from being slapped, and the house was trashed, just like he remembered. That's when he broke down crying. He realized the shadow man with the red eyes hadn't been a dream, that whatever it was, it chose him to see it. After he explained everything to our parents, they took him to church and had him cleansed. To my knowledge, he's never experienced anything like that again. So that was it for today's video. A big thank you to everyone who took the time to send in their spooky encounters. Thank you guys so much. Los quiero. You guys really don't understand how much these stories can help us. It's just a great way to unwind, to de-stress, to disconnect from the world. And I know right now many, not just me, but many people need it. I feel like right now I've been in a dark spot myself, and your guys' stories truly take me out of that. And I hope it does the same for you guys. These stories, I hope they can give you, in a sort of a way, a distraction, even though I don't want to say that it's a distraction, a place that can help you guys to unwind. Whether it be these spooky stories, whether it be the gym, whether it be reading a book, please find that for you, because your mental health will thank you so much. And I know right now we're living in dark times where it feels almost even, you feel guilty to even try to detach yourself from what's going on in the world. If you feel that, if you can relate to that just heaviness, that something inside of you right now, especially right now with what's going on with immigration, what's going on in the world, okay? If you feel that, please find something that can help you unwind for the day so you can kick ass the next day. But just know that you can come to my channel to take a break with whatever it is. Grab your snacks, grab your blanket, and hear some spooky stories, okay? Los quiero mucho, and I hope you guys are all doing well, all staying safe, and I hope to see you guys all in my next one. Bye.